Who does this guy look like, the bald guy? This guy totally reminds me of, like, someone from a movie.
In Diesel?
Oh, he looks like Riddick! Okay, so before we start, there's a few things I need to go over from last time. First off, Sergio Peixoto didn't entirely pick up writing after Pereira was fired. Issue 6 was written by him, then a new writer, Orlando Tosetto, took over for the rest of the publication. This is probably why 6 feels like a stopgap, and 7 introduces a new plot thread that lasts to the end. Second, the writer's notes. So the scanlations here were done by the now defunct Optical Internet Translation Gang, but for some reason they decided not to translate the letters from the writer that began and sometimes ended each issue. When I first read this, I just sort of skimmed over those bits. Like, it would have been a lot of work to manually type everything into a translator, and I didn't even know if there was anything interesting in there. Then I got a comment that in these pages, the writer supposedly goes full xenophobia mode. Well, now I gotta see this. I got in contact with a Brazilian viewer and frequent Cellarcast commenter, Gus. Our friend Gus was kind enough to translate all of these writer's notes and include annotations to better understand some of the cultural context. This is, as far as I'm aware, the first time these are being translated into English, and they'll be included in the patron rewards for this video. Wow! You can redistribute it if you want, I don't mind. Let's run over the first 8 issues just to see what was going on. Immediately, Pereira starts taking jabs at American comics and Japanese publishers. He laments the plight of the Brazilian artists who go ignored while the gringos get all the opportunities. He also erroneously calls it the first manga with a woman in the creative staff. He must be talking about Brazilian manga, because it is certainly not the first manga by a woman. Even still, I don't know if that's true. Right after he dismisses the story of the Ruby Spears cartoon, he also says he doesn't care about the story of the games because, I quote, "A video game cartridge never tells a story. It just rolls up, you move the cursor across the screen, and starts a tendinitis." I thought that was a typo from Gus, so I checked the original line, and no. He really says start a tendinitis. He goes on to say that he won't suck off Kamen Rider, which was pretty popular when it aired in Brazil. The end note of the issue is mostly a short summary, but there is a line where he says that Megaman has all of his weapons from the games. That's obviously false because he never uses them, but that probably just means Pereira didn't know any of the other weapons because, let me remind you, he'd never played a Mega Man game before. There's also this weird foreshadowing to something that doesn't come up again. What the two robots do not know is that, thanks to their system upgrades, they are getting closer and closer to generating life. Roll pregnant? Anything goes,
Not being there for my other
Is that
employees?
called the N-bomb? Oh my god!
Okay, so I'm going to call in my friend Marcia to help me out. Come on in, Marcia. The original word here is
neguinho,
which Gus advises me to be careful of. After doing some research, yeah, it would probably make my life a lot simpler if I didn't say it. It's almost enough to distract from the freakish implication of Roll getting pregnant. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. We get a little more insight in issue 2, where Pereira is proud of the fact that because there really isn't anything coming out of Brazil in terms of comics, anything they do sets a precedent. He then starts on a classic nationalist rant where he puts down other countries' entertainment. He claims that by consuming American content, Brazilian audiences, quote, absorb the moral standard of Americans and become bigoted conservatives. feel like he's really close to calling for an ethno-state. Apparently, Megaman X is a lover of the Palmeiras Football Club.
The official club of fucking your sister.
Also, that mayor character from issue 3 is a combination of 3 real Brazilian politicians, Maluf, Erundina, and Jânio Quadros. I probably mispronounced that. Apparently, even today, they are synonymous with corruption in Brazil. And he refers to Princess, his OC Do Not Steal, as terrifying, dangerous, and sweeter than her mother's pudding. Issue 4 is just him whining about criticism that the comic is getting because, hey, we're just the little guy. Don't pick on us. Don't compare us to the much higher quality material we're competing with. He does have a point about the project having no budget and a small team, but it's just tacky to respond to criticism like this. Just don't do it. You look overly sensitive, which is ironic because at the end, he also says that criticism is welcome. According to the note from issue 5, where Peixoto comes in, there was a gap between the previous issue and that one. Now, you might presume this is because Pereira was fired, but Peixoto claims that the first 4 issues were a sales test and they were waiting for the numbers to come in. He also tries to correct the story by saying, look guys, I know, it's weird that Megaman and X are in the same story together. Because X is an upgrade of Megaman, that's why it's weird. Like, he was really trying to make it seem like he'd played the games. 6's notes aren't that interesting, but 7's... oh boy. Peixoto was getting fan mail asking why the comic wasn't coming out. And he says, have you ever had a good look at the newsstands? Have you already counted how many comic books are published with 100% national material? Have you ever stopped to think that for every magazine with American and/or foreign comics published in Brazil, one or more national artists lose space and become unemployed? Have you ever realized that part of the blame for this situation can be yours? Every time you buy a magazine with foreign comics, can't you tell that we want to give the national comics a chance?
They took our jobs!
I can understand wanting to platform your own country's talent. That makes sense to me. I'm on board with that. It makes the landscape of art richer for everyone. But you don't need to do it at the expense of another country. I get that it can be frustrating for another country's culture to be so present in your own, but that's just someone doing the job you want to be doing, just in their own country. I'll always prefer the more constructive approach of lifting up your own nation's culture to show how cool it is with everyone else's. But calling yourself a nationalist, even signing off your editor's note with it, following these ideals, I don't think it really helps anyone in the long run. You're probably just going to end up more angry. If you just stop being so bitter, I think everyone can win. That's it for the notes up to where we ended last time. Issues 8 and 9 are just submission guidelines for volunteer artists. So speaking of, let's jump into issue 9. Roll is suddenly in a sexy Zero-Suit Samus outfit, striking the optimal horny pose. They're questioning Base about where he's been, I guess? I'm not sure. Hey, where are we, as a matter of fact? There's a quick panel of someone, presumably an enemy, surveying a desert and finding its primary target, but there's been no establishing shot or text to tell us where this is. I'm only assuming that this first-person shot is of the location because it's the only thing that kind of makes sense. Are we still in the floating city? On the ship? Has the ship landed somewhere else? We don't know. Base implies some dark secret that X is keeping, and they hook him up to a machine that will display his memories as holograms. Proto Man tells him to be careful about what he discloses, so we can assume that they're working together. He explains that back when Megaman was created, the world was simpler. I'll remind you that when Megaman was created, there were already little girl robot sex slaves. And he also adds that Wily was a funny, ridiculous imbecile. Again, the character who captured little girls and did experiments on them. But I digest. We can only assume from his retelling of events that after the Holzenbein estate released their new line of cyborgs, Wily did his usual antics of creating robots and trying to take over the world. This is kind of weird because despite Dr. Light definitely being aware of the experimentation, it seems like Megaman was only ever active against Wily and not the Holzenbein estate. It really is this one issue that screws up everything. Anyway, after Wily was imprisoned, he took some kind of unexplained turn into being an evil genius. It's weird that he's only now considered an evil genius when before he was doing, more Mega Man adventures happened, but everything changed when Tengu Man showed up in referenced art. They don't explain what was so special about him. Maybe Taseto just thought he looked cool, which he does. After Tengu Man, Wily lost his mind, and his creations became even more twisted and powerful, including Zero? Kalinka reveals that Dr. Cossack was murdered by Wily, and Roll is surprised to learn that he was her father. This doesn't come up again. Don't expect Kalinka to do anything for the rest of the series. Finally, we get an explanation for Dr. Light's death. Light Labs was under attack, and he told Base, X, and Proto Man to escape while he put Rock and Roll in their little upgrade tubes. I guess they don't remember this because Megaman is surprised to hear that. In a weird bit of continuity, Roll is depicted in the same outfit she wore in issue 1. Right after they were sealed, Wily dropped a nuclear bomb on Light Labs, which explains why it's a desert wasteland in the first issue. Proto Man, Base, and X somehow managed to recover his body from the site. Don't ask how. This is so dumb. He could have just been vaporized in the explosion. Why is it important that they found his body? So we get this dramatic shot of them standing over his corpse? There's a full-page spread of what I'm assuming is a representation of what happened next, because Kalinka and Nastenka are there. Also, Zero, who gets name-dropped for the first time on the next page. This was released only a few months after X4, so the idea of Zero being created by Wily was pretty new. Notice how he's only suggested to be evil in artwork, and not the script. In any event, those enemies who've been infiltrating the base are finally here. Peixoto decides to take up the mantle of whining about criticisms of his comic. He says that Capcom was considering publishing it in the US, which I don't even know. After taking a subtle jab at Pereira, he says that people who complain about the quality of the book should just make their own comic. It's not like you're asking people to give you money for a product or anything. Again, just really immature. Don't do this. Most of this issue is action in the desert base, I guess. I have to admit, some of the designs for the Neo Mavericks are kind of cool. You can't handle G-Man. Oh god, no. Not G-Man. This robot is called Magic Man, but not the real Magic Man, a different one. Sure. He shoots a playing card from his buster and it turns into a Fire Phoenix thing. Why is that so cool? While the heroes are winning, Wily tells the shadowy figures that he intentionally sent in weak robots to fight them. Never explained. So it took me 22 pages to notice that Roll has yet again changed into a different revealing outfit. The artists in this comic are so ludicrously horny for a role that she is given a different sexy costume in every issue, while Kalinka and Nasenka are allowed to wear basically the same thing. It's also pretty odd how Roll is the only one of Light's robots who wears clothes. Like, I get that she's dressed casually in the games, but so is Megaman when he's not fighting. Here, everyone gets to stay in their regular armor except her. Anyway, the ground cracks in the shape of a W, the most convenient shape for a trauma flashback. What's so funny about this is that she could have had this moment just as easily by seeing the Wily logo on Magic Man's helmet. Good thing there's no Whataburgers in this universe. She freaks out and starts blasting, because remember, Roll uses anger to vent her frustration/worries/grief. After winning the battle, Roll ponders her outburst, and Proto Man monologues deviously about her awakening. The editor's note says that there was a delay in getting this issue out because people in Brazil go on vacation from December to March. I don't know if that's true. Roll is giving Base some sort of diagnostics checkup. Again, no idea where we are. Suddenly, we cut to these guys screaming, and back to Roll and Base. They get into a small argument, and these guys again. What is happening? I think they're trying to do some fancy parallel storytelling, but it's really jarring because we don't have any context for where anyone is or what they were doing before. Like, this first panel could just as easily have been these robots opening the door to Roll and Base and looking surprised. We don't know, and it's confusing. We cut, again, to X hitting on Nastenka. When he brings up Kalinka's age, she changes the subject. Taseto is sort of trying to set up her being a robot, but nothing comes of it because Kalinka doesn't do anything. Neither does Nasenka, really. There's a 2-page spread along the top of these pages that appears to depict what's been going on with these orange guys. It looks like they're in a city and getting torn up by something unseen. When Roll tries to inspect Base's brain, he slaps her hand away. Proto Man is observing all this through Base's eyes and decides to switch his feed to that mysterious battle scene we've been cutting to. He just says that he is the most powerful, and we get an immediate cut to Wily saying the same thing. It's gotta be Zero. There's only one other character it could be.
I guess so.
Yeah, so it's definitely Zero, but Proto Man calls him brother? I thought we were copying his backstory from X4. Then we meet... who the fuck are these people? Without warning, we're thrown into an action scene of Megaman fighting a bunch of robots in a city. Oh, this has to be the same place that other battle is going on. Okay, so Megaman, I guess, is killing these guys, and that's why Proto Man's calling him his brother. Okay, makes sense. Hey, to be fair, this art is pretty decent. Oh, no, wait. This is a simulation. We just spent a lot of page time in a training room with no bearing on the plot. This could have been summarized in a page or two. Anyway, yeah, it's Zero. Base insists that he isn't hiding anything, and Proto Man concurs, revealing that he's in space? Since when has he been in space? I thought his little base was underground or something. He hits a button and makes Roll have, like, a robot seizure. This cover is wildly violent. The name of this issue is Polish Corridor. According to the translators, this is a term that means passing through 2 rows of people who beat you, similar to a hazing ritual. I couldn't find anything to back this up, so take that with a grain of salt. It's also a historical reference to a strip of Poland that gave them access to the Baltic Sea. Peixoto uses the editor's note to trash on Pereira some more, saying they fixed his story. He also makes a weird promise of seeing Roll, Kalinka, and Nasenka in situations, let's say. Congratulations on making it this far. We have officially entered the last 5 issues of Novas Aventuras de Megaman, where the story becomes almost completely incomprehensible. The art has shifted into full-on Image Comics, and is probably the most professional looking since issue 4. That cliffhanger from last time is not addressed. We are suddenly following Roll, I think, somewhere, at some time, and she is running from someone. Much like the plot, she is dressed half-assed. She doesn't even know what's going on, judging by the narration. She has some internal monologue about vague, dramatic, edgy-sounding things like losing memories while she thinks about the other characters. I have no idea what Megaman is doing on this page. She says she saw her father die, which we know from literally 2 issues ago was not what happened. She also saw her brothers turned into killing machines? Is this in the past? Before the comic? Or during the comic's events? In the middle of this nonsensical emo narration, we get these 2 little guys. Take this scribble something, Rafa. Oh, great. Edgy thing. What the fuck is this?
They're Neopets.
They're Neopets. She says that Light wasn't her dad, just the person who built her? Both of these are false. She obviously had biological parents, and Light did not build her? Maybe he never told her the truth about her past? Or Tessetto forgot? She's really turned sour on Light, calling him just a crazy person with time and money who made a lot of other robots to fight another crazy person with a mustache. This reads like someone trying really hard to make a children's property dark and edgy. She gives into whatever, her sadness, and gets pumped in the head. When she awakens, she's been stripped naked, chained to a wall, and had weird metal diodes attached to her nipples. Why? 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 Proto Man looms over her, I'm feeling sick, and misquotes the Bible. According to the translator's note at the end, this phrase, "what won't come with love comes with pain," is a common misconception in Brazil. The next page reveals the other characters also chained up, but conveniently left clothed, and Proto Man's creepy grin in the dark. Zero looms behind him as he presses another button. I'm dreading the next issue. This entire issue is nonsense. It reads like a reboot in the tail end of the story, right after a cliffhanger. We don't know what happened in between these 2 points. I thought it was a time skip, but I can't even say that for sure. It's rare to feel so disoriented just reading something, but here we are. So it occurred to me while editing that this issue may have been a dream sequence. It's really the only possible explanation for why everything feels so disjointed and hazy, and why we would suddenly jump to a completely new setting and then back to, I guess, the main plot with no explanation. It doesn't make it much better, but it is the only way that I can piece together that this was supposed to be read. This was how it was supposed to be taken. Fuck. Okay, back to the video. Issue 13 is the first time Tessetto himself is writing to us. According to him, the second and final sales test is done, and Novas Aventuras de Megaman is going to be a staple book of the publisher. Megaman asks the others who imprisoned them, and Roll says it's probably the guy standing right there. Wait. Base was chained up with them! X was there too! I guess the script for the last issue wasn't clear about who was and wasn't on the wall. This is a problem that plagues a lot of this comic. I don't think Taseto was familiar with script writing, so there's a lot of things that weren't included in the script that are really important for understanding the story, namely place, time, and environmental details. I'm assuming a lot of the script was vague, general notes, and the rest was dialogue and actions. Mix that with the revolving door of artists, and you have some really bewildering sections that read like fever dreams. They feel like they aren't rooted in time or space. Things just happen. That button Proto Man pressed didn't do anything. We are just going to ignore it. Anyway, looks like X has betrayed us. You gotta say it together. You. Roll chastises them because she was in Base's arms. So I guess that cliffhanger did lead to something? Does she remember? What the fuck happened when Proto Man pushed that button? Now we're back to these random rebels? I think they're supposed to be Cockney? I don't have no idea.
Cockney? Like, it's supposed to be English?
Right here he says, in it. So, like...
Oh, you need me to be English, I got you. I've got it. We should find a way to help Zero. Proto Man and him are on the way out. All we have to do is find out where secret base and go there as volunteers. Easy, isn't it, Otto? How about that?
Do this guy too, please.
Wait, what?
Do this guy too, please.
Oh no, it's here. How do you pronounce that name?
Eduardo. I don't know.
Eduardo.
Super easy, Edward. But how are we going to find the secret base, huh? Well, it's simple. It's, I don't know.
They want to help Zero because he and Proto Man are the only way out. Help Zero do what? We don't know who he is, where he comes from, what he wants, or what his connections to the other characters are. They need to find their secret base, and so the token girl offers to help, but is unsuccessful. So this guy, Eduard, just says they'll hit the road and look for him? We're back to this weird sex dungeon, and Proto Man insists that it's not a weird sex dungeon. Before he can explain what's really going on, Megaman says he's had enough, and breaks free from his restraints, which I guess he could have done the whole time. He frees the others, except Roll? Or is that Kalinka? And they enter into a brawl. Instead of just explaining what the fuck is going on, Proto Man just keeps saying that he wants to explain what the fuck is going on. The fighting continues as Wily explains to his shadowy friends that he wasn't expecting Zero's return. Return from where? How long has it been? What happened? Who is he? Mind you, this only makes slight sense because Zero is a character most people know from the games. In the context of this story, he's a guy who's never been mentioned before and just randomly started appearing and is supposedly super important and strong. They have done nothing to set him up or explain anything about him. He might as well be Gerald the robot. Cutting to Wily's hideout, these 6 characters finally decide to show themselves, offering to stop Zero. They are the 6, as was foreshadowed many issues ago. They go by the 5 now because Proto Man was once a part of their group, but has left. This is actually one of the first things Taseto set up when he took over the book, if you remember back in issue 7. Never mind the fact that Proto Man looks nothing like these guys. Who the fuck are these Rob Liefeld looking motherfuckers?
The one on the right looks like Guile.
Oh my god. More fighting happens, and X comes to Nastenka's aid, saying that if Base touches one electrical wire of hers... They glossed over it earlier, but yeah, Nastenka is a robot, I guess? Zero finally gets his first line of dialogue. Did we have a Zero voice?
I think we did.
I don't think we did.
We didn't.
I don't think he's had a line of dialogue until now. Will, do you want to do Zero?
Oh, what voice should I give Zero?
Create a character out of him.
Do you want me to make him into a cholo?
Please. Please.
Hey, what's this, P? Blow me up? That's a good one. You're really way more powerful, my sister, but still naive, as always. It's a shame.
Ouch, Zero. That's a low move. Get your foot off there.
It's a low rider.
It's time for you. It's time for you to learn a lesson, Rolly. And you won't. Oh wait, scroll up a little bit.
Yeah, still you.
Yeah, no, scroll up a little bit. I can't see. Okay, go down. There's like cracks in my phone. I'm trying to like.
Oh, okay.
see between the cracks.
Okay, sure.
I can't. Oh, and you won't like it. The spider.
Just as Zero is about to execute Roll, we cut to an office building. The goatee guy from issue 8 is back and wants to see Mr. Holzenbein. When he walks into his office unannounced, he finds Sweet Mercy! What the fuck is happening? Is he doing voodoo on a random girl? I'm gonna come out and say that the art in this issue is terrible. It looks like storyboard art. It looks like a first draft. I know that sounds harsh, but it's genuinely hard to tell what's going on. We're with these stupid fucking rebels again who have somehow tracked Zero to a place called the Deep Grotto outside of the city. One of their members, Alan, isolated Proto-Man's processor wavelengths to find him. It's some nonsense. Roll is no longer on the ground and is missing the nipple diodes from last time. It turns out that Zero doesn't have the heart to kill her after all, and spares her life, because she's his sister? Wait, did Wily make Zero or not? Wily doubts that the Five will be able to stop the Mega family, and decides that he needs to intervene himself, revealing this ridiculous armor he's been wearing the whole time. Hi, Reggae! And Megamix Skullman, and Vile. I am kind of impressed that the designs for the Five have remained consistent all the way up from the first issue, when they were only in silhouette. They can't find Proto-Man, despite the fact that these stupid human characters figured that out, like, instantly. They refer to him as their brother, which implies Light also built them? He built Proto-Man at the same time as Rock and Roll. Where were they? Why are they allied with Wily? What happened here? Just as one of them is calling Proto-Man untraceable, another says he's found him and just points to a cave. I guess he also must have isolated his processor wavelengths. They spot the rebels driving down below and decide to kill them. They start shooting from above, and this guy's name has become Maurice, and they crash into one of the robots and into the cave? I don't think the artist knew what backgrounds were, so everything in this issue is impossible to place. There's no sense of sequential storytelling. I guess they crashed into the secret base, and instead of immediately killing Proto-Man, the Five ask him where Roll is. We don't know why she's important, but until the end of the comic, Roll is the most important character in the story. Megaman says he thought the Six were a myth? So he's heard of them? We're suddenly back to the voodoo ritual, and we finally get a name for this guy. Hans. Riddick says that this girl is both alive and dead, but they should see what Monsieur Papa Goo says? No one is sure who/what Monsieur Papa Goo is. What the fuck? What the fuck? God damn it. I can't find anything even tangentially related that this could be referencing. Proto-Man again says that he wants to explain what's going on without actually explaining what's going on. Roll asks who the rebels are, which I would also like to know. This member of the Five asks where Roll is, even though she's right there. Or is she? I can't tell There's no backgrounds for 3 pages. Wily considers his next move and decides after thinking long and hard to just attack them, saying that he'll have all he wishes for in the world. We don't know what he wants. Is it to destroy Megaman, corrupt him, stop Zero, get Roll? His internal narration says he can't let the aliens achieve their objective and that everyone is playing into their hands. Apparently there are aliens who want Roll. He thinks back on the events of issue 4, so all that stuff was canonical and Roll was just misremembering in issue 12. Well, he needs her to, quote, deal with his enemies. Who are his enemies? Wasn't Roll just the first success in making a cyborg? It seems like they had the process down pretty well. Why couldn't they just make more? We're back to Holzenbein's office, where he's ripped this girl's heart out. He slips off his voodoo robes, under which he was wearing a full vest and collared shirt, then starts pontificating about how Wily is nothing, and how he wants power, which this sacrifice will get him. How much time has passed since that whole bit with Roll collapsing? Has Wily betrayed the Holzenbein estate like they implied he wanted in issue 8? Holzenbein's secretary, Fifi, seems pretty used to corpses in the office. I guess he regularly does voodoo rituals at the workplace. They must have the weirdest glass door page. We are back to the secret base, and Megaman doesn't want Proto Man to explain to the audience what the fuck is happening. There's an insane poster. Then Wily appears and says he wants Roll. The characters' faces appear in Wily's name for some reason. I guess it's artsy. He says that the 5 have betrayed him? When? How? Weren't they going to get Roll, which is what he wants? And calls them his sons. I thought they were Proto Man's brothers, which would make them Light's creations. Unless all this son and brother talk is just symbolic on the parts of the characters. Like when you see someone you aren't related to, but you're like the same race or something, so you say,
"Hey bro, let's kill this honky bitch."
Proto Man breaks the 4th wall, and Mega Man has the gall to say he doesn't know what's happening. You know, I think I know how you could solve that. The main characters find a common enemy in Wily, and he thinks to himself that they're too powerful, unleashing his Neo Mavericks. This is it. The home stretch. What the fuck is this cover? The writer's note from Tessetto is optimistic about the future of the company and the comic. It's actually kind of heartwarming. Little did he know this would be the final issue. All of a sudden, we're in a city! This is one of those problems with the script not explaining things for the artists. We were way outside the city just an issue ago, and now, not only have we moved here, but it's suffered enough damage that buildings are toppling over. Unless this is what it looked like before, which might be the case because Tessetto is allergic to context. One of the other things that makes this so disorienting is that the reader is never told what the state of the world is like. So we don't really have any frame of reference for time passing or things getting better or worse. The attacking Neo Mavericks are amusingly copy-pasted around the sky. One of the rebels gets a strange communication, and Megaman wonders since when Wily is a robot. Wait, what? Is he? How can you tell? This panel of Wily in black armor with double laser cannon arms is maybe the perfect symbol of how off the rails we've gone. A spaceship from above says that Roll cannot be put at risk before Iceman backhands Base. God, Base is one of my favorite Mega Man characters, and he just gets his ass kicked this entire comic. Our heroes struggle and fall, and Base tells Roll that she's the key to all of this. She's a more sexually appealing character than we've ever had. Suddenly, Gutsman grabs them and calls them a short-circuited homo and a furious bitch, which is a great name for a podcast. He tosses Base away like a little baby, and there's like weird sexual assault undertones. He refers to her hot body and calls himself Uncle? What the fuck is happening? In a dramatic go for broke moment, they blow holes through each other, and Roll lays dying in the dirt. Megaman sees the carnage around him, all of his fallen friends, and decides that he's had enough. He shoots a beam at Wily, but a shield has formed around him, and without warning, 3 figures appear in a burst of light. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening?
Oh my god.
This alien has titties. We cut suddenly to a graveyard, where Mr. Holzenbein and Hans have taken the girl's body, so I guess Fifi isn't cleaning up the corpse? Holzenbein insists that this is necessary because it's a full moon, and announces that he's heralding the end of everything. Literally. The end of everything. What the fuck? That's so violent. Does it end?
Oh,
Is
that's
that
it?
That's it?
That was the end.
That was it?
That was it?
That was the end of everything.
What the fuck?
That was it?
That's how it ends. What
Well, I
happened
hope
to
you-
Kalinka wanting to spread communism throughout the world?
I guess we'll never know.
Most of the people who worked on Novas Aventuras de Megaman didn't go on to very much, but there are some notable exceptions. Marcia Harumi Saito, Pereira's wife, who illustrated issue 1, now works as a graphic designer and is also a crime fiction novelist. Daniel HDR did art for issues 2 and 16, and actually had a flourishing career in comics, doing work for Marvel and DC. He has a YouTube channel where he uploads speed drawing streams, and commentary on famous comic book artists. Alexandra Teixeira helped Daniel on the same issues he worked on, and they were in fact dating at the time. Nowadays, she's a webcomics artist who goes by Alexandra Presser. Erika Awano was the artist for issue 4, which I immediately picked out as looking a lot better. She's the daughter of 2 Japanese immigrants born and raised in Brazil, and went on to be a highly acclaimed Brazilian manga artist. After her work on Megaman, she illustrated another officially licensed Capcom book, an adaptation of Street Fighter Alpha 3. She founded a magazine called Anime Do, and did art for Tormenta, a Brazilian tabletop RPG. One of her most successful works was Holy Avenger, a spin-off set in the Tormenta world. Megaman was her first published work. It was a springboard for the rest of her career. Other artists who came out of Megaman were Rogério Hanata, who now works freelance, and Eduardo Francisco, who went on to work for DC Comics. Still others would become art teachers at various Brazilian schools, like Marcos Pinto from Visuart. Sergio Peixoto founded Animax in 1996, and he was a key player in the original Brazilian anime and manga scene. He grew up around Liberdade, the little Tokyo of Sao Paulo, and started one of the first anime magazines in the country. He was present at the first anime convention ever held in Brazil. Nowadays, he still seems to have some kind of publishing presence with a magazine called Anime EX. Even more than the people who went on to be notable, I find myself fascinated by the people who didn't. This was no doubt a scrappy publication. The way it came to be was ridiculous, and the plot was even more unhinged. But imagine being a kid or teenager or aspiring artist in 1996 and finding out that you could draw an official Megaman comic. All of a sudden, things that seemed impossible were very real, and even if you didn't do a great job, you did it. Like, that's so cool. How many people can say that? Remember when I said that issue 5 looked like a how to draw manga book? Yeah, that one was illustrated by Lydia Megumi Oide, who, going by her birthday, was 15 years old when she drew it. Yeah, I talked shit about a 15-year-old, and I'll do it again. Sorry, she was a freshman in high school. Think about what you were doing at that age. As for the writers, Orlando Tassetto wrote the most normal letters, but had the more insane plot, I would say. He does have a Twitter, but I can't tell what he does now. He just kind of tweets random thoughts and apparently has a blog. Jose Roberto Pereira is dead. He died in 2012. Shit. That's kind of weird. Doing research for this reminded me a lot of my Konami E3 video, where this one thing was like a conduit for people of all sorts to pass through. Some would be remembered and some wouldn't, but at the end of the day, they were real people. This odd thought occurred to me during our first reading of this comic. It was in issue 13, at the halfway point, where they break up the book with a poster. It depicts the main cast of characters, rendered by Rogerio Hanata, in a lighthearted way. I felt a strange kind of familiarity with them. Something about it was very sweet after going on these crazy adventures with them. I guess I'd built up a sort of attachment to this cast of characters who only resembled ones I already loved. I'm not the only one. If you look to the opposite page, you'll find fan mail and fan art of them. I've neglected to mention it until now, but every issue after the first one has this. Lots of it, actually. A young Brazilian audience picked this comic up and found something to enjoy. Even if it was shallow and misguided, it meant something to them. Novas Aventuras de Megaman is a lot of things. It's messy, nonsensical, ugly, pretty, disturbing, hilarious. If there's one thing it isn't, it's corporate. This was, above all, a labor of love. Pereira had no love for the source material, but god damn it, he cared about being xenophobic. Tassetto's writing is insane, but god damn it, he didn't hold back. Like, he obviously just threw in shit he thought was cool. This comic is weird, it's special. It's like a kaleidoscope of creative voices, all bouncing and reflecting off each other. Is it very good? No, but I'm glad it exists. How often do you get to see something so crazy and honest? If you learned anything from this, let it be that there are such treasures in the world, and shunning them just because they're bad is robbing yourself of the simple joys in life, like laughing at the official Brazilian Megaman incest comic. I have a Patreon and a podcast, look at it.
Here comes the daredevil. Game over.